Mark. Well, anti-Semitic chants could be banned under new hate speech laws being drafted by Attorney General Mark Dreyfus. The bill will reportedly carry criminal and not civil penalties for serious offences of vilification based on someone's race, sexuality, gender, disability or religion. Now, the timing could not be better after Melbourne's biggest Jewish school was vandalised with a tragic death threat sprayed across its fence. The statement, "Jew die," was graffitied across the entrance to the school last Friday night, terrorising and upsetting students and parents. Here was the school principal and Deputy PM Richard Marles today.
There are a number of families who chose not to send their children to school today. This is off the back of the community already feeling quite unsafe given the anti-Israel protests that have been going on and the fear that our families have that they might find their ways to high schools, not just, or to Jewish schools and not just university campuses.
The levels of anti-Semitism that we have seen in the past few months are more than any that I've seen during my lifetime, and it must stop. It has no place in our country.
So deeply upsetting. All right, let's bring in now Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Paterson. I mean, James, look, all these protesters and others claim that, you know, this is about Israel, this isn't about being Jewish, that they're not anti-Semitic. Well, graffiti like that, Jew die, just shows what a mockery their claims are. And I strongly believe that right now, if you're denying Israel's right to exist, that anti-Zionism is indistinguishable from anti-Semitism. What do you think?
Of course, that's exactly right, Sharri. Scratch the surface on almost every vehement anti-Zionist and you will find an anti-Semite. If they're smart enough, they couch the language in terms of Zionism and the State of Israel, but it doesn't take much before you get to what's really underlying all of it, and that is a hatred of Jewish people and racism towards the Jewish community. I agree with what the Deputy Prime Minister said today, but I think we would all be forgiven for wondering whether Richard Marles has been in an induced coma for the last 6 months and he's only just woken up and realised what's going on, because it shouldn't have taken what has happened at Mount Scopus for him to realise how serious the anti-Semitism crisis has been in our country for more than 6 months now, since the 7th of October. It's abundantly clear what's happening and where has been the action to complement the serious words that we're now hearing out of the Deputy Prime Minister and some others.
Well, next week it'll be 8 months, actually. You know, it's 8 months that we've seen this extreme anti-Semitism. And look, as I've said repeatedly, the strong daily anti-Israel rhetoric that we see from this government, where they wrongly accuse Israel of targeting civilians, of not acting in accordance with humanitarian law, when they call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire because they claim, again, wrongly, that Israel is targeting civilians. Well, all of this sends the message to people on the street, to Australians, that, you know, Israel isn't behaving properly, isn't behaving in accordance with international law, and this is part of what's driving the anti-Semitism. So doesn't the government have to take some responsibility for the levels of anti-Semitism that we're seeing?
Of course they do, Sharri. That's exactly what they should do. But the Prime Minister right now can't even control his own caucus when it comes to these questions. He's had Senator Fatima Payman out there the previous week endorsing a phrase which the Prime Minister has said is a very violent statement, which has no place in Australia. And again today, she is tweeting that we should end all trade and economic relations with Israel and we should unilaterally recognise a Palestinian state. I mean, what she knows is there are no consequences for defying a weak Prime Minister. And if the Prime Minister can't even control his own caucus, what hope does he have defending the Jewish community against these unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism?
And look, he's barely lifted a finger to even try defend the Jewish community, in my opinion.